So when you think about your digital money, how do you keep it safe? We usually picture, a single super secure vault. But in the world of Bitcoin, the absolute strongest security might actually come from having multiple keys, not just one. I know, it sounds a little weird, but trust me, it's a total game changer. So let's dive in and see how this whole thing works.
Just imagine for a second that heart-stopping moment when you can't find your keys. Now, in crypto, losing your one and only private key means your funds could just vanish forever. Yeah, that's a terrifying thought, right? But what if there was a way to set things up so that losing one key wasn't a complete disaster? What if you could build in a safety net?
Well, this is exactly where we need to start thinking differently. That traditional one key, one lock idea is super simple, sure, but it's also a massive single point of failure. I mean, if that one key gets lost or stolen by some hacker, there's no backup plan. Your funds are just gone. We can do better than that. The classic setup puts all the pressure, all the risk on one person and that one little key. It's kind of like you're standing on a rickety wooden plank over a giant treasure chest. As long as you're holding on to that key, everything's great. But what happens if you drop it? Or if someone comes along and pushes you off? Your entire security model depends on that one single thing. Okay, so how do we get off that shaky plank? Well, Bitcoin has this really ingenious solution called multi-signature, or as everyone calls it, multisig. Instead of relying on one person with one key, it's all about teamwork and sharing control. And the whole concept boils down to this really simple but powerful idea, the M of N rule. So the whole idea is M of N. And think of it like this. N is the total number of people who have a key to the treasure chest, and M is the minimum number of those people who have to show up and turn their keys at the exact same time to open it. So let's say you have a 2 of 3 setup. That means you've got 3 key holders in total, but you only need 2 of them to actually approve a transaction. This one simple rule gives you an incredible amount of flexibility. And honestly, the best way to picture this is like one of those high-security bank vaults from the movies. Imagine the vault door has, say, 5 keyholes, but you only need 3 keys to actually open it. This means that even if a thief steals one key, they still can't get in. And on the flip side, if you accidentally lose a key, no big deal. You can still get to your funds with the other 2. It's a system that's built from the ground up to be both secure and resilient. And this is where multisig starts to get really practical. For, say, a 2-person business, a 2 of 2 setup is perfect. It makes sure neither partner can just spend the company's money without the other one agreeing. For your own savings, a 2 of 3 is a fantastic backup system. You could keep one key at home, another in a safe deposit box, and give the third to a trusted family member. And for big organizations, a 3 of 5 could require a majority vote from the board of directors before any big spending happens. The possibilities are pretty much endless. All right, so we've covered what multisig is and why it's so incredibly useful, but how does it actually work on the Bitcoin network? Well, the magic is all in this tiny little piece of code called a script. Think of it like a set of instructions that tells the network, hey, these are the conditions that have to be met before this money can be spent. Let's pop the hood and take a quick look. Now, don't let the code scare you. It's actually a super simple recipe. First, you just tell the network how many signatures you need, that's M, then you give it a list of all the people who are allowed to sign. After that, you tell it the total number of key holders, that's N, and finally, you give it the magic command to check everything, op check multisig. That's it. It's a simple but really powerful set of instructions. So what happens when you actually want to spend your multi-sig funds? Well, the Bitcoin network basically acts like a very diligent security guard. It pulls out its checklist, runs that OP check multi-sig command, and gets to work. It counts the signatures to make sure you have enough. Then it carefully matches each signature to the public keys on its official list. And here's a fun little quirk. The signatures have to be in the exact right order. If everything checks out, the guard opens the lock and boom, your transaction goes through. Okay, so now that we've seen how the script is supposed to work, let's dive into a really fascinating piece of Bitcoin history. It turns out there's a tiny little bug in that OP check multi-sig command we were just talking about, a bug that was found years and years ago, but for a very interesting reason was never actually fixed. In fact, it's now a permanent part of the Bitcoin protocol. So here's the mystery. When you go to unlock your multisig funds, you have to add this extra little piece of data right at the beginning, OP0. It's literally just a 0. It's not a signature, it's not a key, it doesn't really seem to do anything. So why is it there? What is the point of this strange extra 0? And the answer, believe it or not, is a bug. The original code for OP check multisig just had a small mistake. It was designed to check a list of items, but it accidentally removes one too many items from that list. It's kind of like a machine that's supposed to count 10 apples, but for some reason, it always ends up with 9. So to get around this, developers just decided to add an extra, totally meaningless item to the list. That's our OP0. The buggy machine takes the dummy item, and all the real signatures are left untouched. Pretty clever workaround, right?
And this is where we see a fundamental principle of blockchain technology in action. I mean, why not just fix the bug? Well, because doing that would have required something called a hard fork, a massive update that would have made all the old multisig transactions totally invalid. It was decided it was way safer and less chaotic to just work around the bug. So now that little OP0 is like a living fossil inside the Bitcoin code, a constant reminder that in the world of blockchain, stability is everything.
So even with that weird little historical quirk, multisig has grown to become an incredibly powerful and widely used feature of the Bitcoin network. Let's move away from the code and look at how people are using multisig out in the real world today to secure their funds. We'll also take a look at some of the important trade-offs you got to be aware of. Look, multisig isn't just some clever theory. It's the security backbone for a massive part of the entire crypto economy. Think about it. When you buy something online with Bitcoin, the funds might be held in a 2 of 3 escrow account, where you, the seller, and a neutral third party each have a key. Giant crypto exchanges use multisig to protect the millions, sometimes billions, of dollars in their active hot wallets. And thousands of regular people just like you and me use it to create these amazing fail-safe backup systems for their life savings. It's a technology that's out there every single day, keeping funds safe. Of course, there's no such thing as a free lunch. While multisig gives you this huge leap forward in security, it does come with some trade-offs. Single signature wallets are definitely simpler to use, and they have slightly lower transaction fees. They're great for small, everyday spending. But for serious amounts of money, the extra security you get from multisig is almost always worth the tiny bit of extra complexity and cost. It's all about choosing the right tool for the right job. So what's the big takeaway here? Multisig is an incredibly powerful tool that can seriously upgrade the security of your digital assets. It changes security from this lonely, stressful burden into a shared responsibility. But it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So I'll just leave you with this question. What's your security plan? Are you comfortable with just a single key, or is it maybe time to think about a multisig setup? The right answer really depends on your own situation. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Bitcoin multisig.